Hello, I'm Mark Price. I'd like to talk to you today about to believe or not to believe. That is the question. There was a young girl in school who was drawing a picture, and the teacher came by and looked and asked what she was drawing, and she said, "I'm drawing a picture of Jonah and the whale that swallowed him." And the teacher said to the young girl, says, "You know that's not a real story, don't you? It's just all made up, it's fairy tale." And the young girl said, No, teacher." She says, "My mom told me, my daddy told me, and my pastor at church told me, it's real." And the teacher said, "Well, young lady, I've taught you about science and I've taught you about fish and whales. There is no physical way that a whale or a big fish could swallow a human being. It is just completely and totally impossible." And the young girl said, "Well, when I die and I go to heaven, I'm going to ask Jonah myself." And the teacher looked at the little girl and says, "Well, what if Jonah doesn't go to heaven? What if he goes to the other place?" And the little girl looked up and said, "Well, then you could ask him." There you are. The gospel today is from Matthew chapter 12, verses 38 to 42. Some of the scribes and Pharisees said to Jesus, "Teacher, we wish to see a sign from you." He said to them in reply, "An evil and unfaithful generation seeks a sign, but no sign will be given it except the sign of Jonah the prophet. Just as Jonah was in the belly of the whale 3 days and 3 nights, so will the Son of Man be in the heart of the earth 3 days and 3 nights. At the judgment, the men of Nineveh will arise with this generation and condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and there is something greater than Jonah here. At the judgment, the queen of the south will arise with this generation and condemn it, because she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and there is something greater than Solomon here." The gospel of the Lord. So, what's happening here? Jesus is again confronted by the scribes and the Pharisees. The Pharisees were doing usually 2 things: nitpicking about the law or trying to challenge and trick Jesus one way or another. And so the scribes and the Pharisees in today's gospel are saying, "Okay, Jesus, we want to see a miracle. You want us to believe? We want to see you do another trick." It's like the monkey with the organ grinder. The monkey just keeps doing trick after trick after trick and to entertain people. And Jesus is saying, you won't believe no matter how many miracles happen. No matter, you have a miracle in Jonah, swallowed by a whale, and yet was able to preach to such a degree that it forced or brought about repentance from the entire area of Nineveh. And that's not good enough for you. There's a miracle. You also have the queen of the south, it says in this gospel. It's referring to the queen of Sheba, who heard about the greatness of Solomon, the wisdom of Solomon, but wanted to see for herself. So she traveled all the way to see Solomon, King Solomon, the son of King David, to see if he really was as filled with wisdom as the world was saying. And she had questions to ask. And she asked the questions, and she was amazed. And she said, "You're even brighter than, you have even more wisdom than the world says." And Jesus says that even the queen of Sheba, the queen from the south, saw in Solomon this greatness. And Jesus says, "You have someone even greater than Solomon here with you right now." And he was, of course, referring to himself. So what is he saying? He's saying that if you choose not to believe, then you're never going to believe. You're never going to be open. Jesus could perform miracle after miracle. He had already made the lame to walk, the blind to see. He walked on water. He fed thousands of people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And he prophesied his own death and final resurrection, coming back from the dead. And it still isn't good enough for the people, because they chose not to believe. For us in our life, we have to choose to believe or not to believe. And if we choose not to believe, if we draw that line in the sand and say there's no God no matter what, it doesn't matter how many miracles he performs. Herod, when Jesus is brought before Herod, just prior to his crucifixion, it's depicted, I think, in a funny way in Jesus Christ Superstar, where Herod is saying, "Prove to me that you're no fool, walk across my swimming pool. Prove to me that you're divine, change my water into wine." So Herod, a non-believer in Jesus, is just saying, do another trick, do another trick, do another trick. The Israelites at the time of Moses, they saw Moses with God save the babies of the Israelites from the plague. He saw them escape from slavery. Oh, wait a minute. Was there slavery back then? Oh, yes, there was. My gosh, it didn't begin in the United States? Oh, yeah. So he helped the Israelites escape slavery by parting the Red Sea so that they could get through it to the other side, and then it closed in on the army of the Egyptians. And then he brought water out of rocks when they were thirsty in the desert, and then bread out of the desert when they were hungry in the desert. All of these miracles happened, but they were not believing. They might believe for a second, but it wasn't deep. When we choose in our life to say no, to draw that line in the sand, then we're never going to believe. I'm going to make a comment about politics. I'm not making a political statement. I'm just drawing a comparison to in our world today, to people saying no, people drawing their line in the sand. I have a friend who is like many others. He hates Donald Trump, hates him with a passion. Hate, hate, hate. Hate is bad. Hate destroys you from within. Hate destroys the hater more than the one you're hating. So he hates Donald Trump, and nothing that Donald Trump ever does is good. Or Donald Trump actually never does anything. We were driving past the wall, this new border wall that Trump put in, and between San Diego and Mexico. And I said to my friend, I said, "What do you think of the new wall?" And he says, "There is no new wall." I said, "What do you mean it's right there?" And he says, "No, there's no new wall." I said, it's new wall. It's 30 feet tall. It's got the slats. It's the new wall. And he said, "No, it's not." He says he did not build new wall. He's looking at it. My friend is looking at it. He's very bright too. He's looking at it, but his hate will not allow him to actually see it. You see, this was a place where there had been a dilapidated wall, where a fence, if you will, that many people climbed over, got over, went through, went under. And this brand new wall was put there to prevent that, to stop that. But in his mind, his hatred would not allow him to see the new wall. And what Jesus is saying in the gospel today, so many of us draw that line on whether I'm going to believe or not. I do not ever choose to believe in God. And any miracle that we see, we cannot attribute to God because we've chosen not to believe in God. We've drawn that line in the sand, if you will. When I'm feeling down or I'm feeling out, I can look outside and I can see the sun, and it brightens my day. And I know the sun's going to go down in the evening and come back up tomorrow. And I say to myself, that's a miracle of God. But a non-believer says, no, it's just nature. But because I choose to believe, I know and believe that God created all nature. And so anything that happens in nature is of God. So I can see the miracle of God in things. I see the miracle of God when I look at a flower. I see the miracle of God when I see a baby smile. I see the miracle of God or hear the miracle of God when I remember wanting to hear my daughter speak. Is she ever going to be able to speak or say words? And when she spoke her first words, I remember I cried and I said, that is a miracle of God. Now, why did I see it as a miracle of God? Because I believe in God. I've chosen to believe in God. Jesus is saying in today's gospel, those who do not choose to believe or who are not open to believe, who are cold-minded, hard-headed, cold-hearted, they restrict and limit themselves from even the openness that it could be of God. And when we do that, we will never see God in anything. We will never have the faith that comes from believing. So in my life, to believe or not to believe, I choose to believe. How about you? This is Mark Price. Thanks for listening.